Hey everybody, Frugal Farmer here. This is what used to be a payphone. I don't even know if it still works or not, but these were quite popular back in the day. Well, my buddy Craig and I made use of these things. Craig, he was small in stature, but he had a real adult sounding voice, and if he tried, he could make it sound even more so. And we had a habit of making calls to unsuspecting people from these payphones, and we were worried about them being traced somehow. But they didn't have like caller ID or none of that back then. But I guess they knew what time the call came in. They could trace and see where it came from. So we used payphones, and they were a quarter well spent. Well, I thought long and hard about doing this video, and I know the statute of limitations is over with on anything. And I think it'd just be maybe a harassing phone call. We didn't call multiple times, we just called once. Well, one of Craig's favorite go-to was detective calling for whatever reason. Normally we never pranked any girls. It was always guys we knew who were jerks. And there was this one, I didn't like him, thus Craig didn't like him. Well, we'd skip school, and that's another story too. But we'd get on these phones. We had the phone books. You had the address and name of the person. So we'd call as Mr. Miss such and such there. Well, normally back in those days, usually the mother would be home, and we'd talk to her, explaining that her son had been sneaking into the girls' bathrooms, and if they could address that situation for us with their child. If not, then we're going to have to get law enforcement involved. There was that one. Then there was one where he called up and said they need to bring their son to the local law enforcement agency, and that we were trying to keep it from turning into an arrest, and he'd make up something for him. And we did that. We probably spent $100 in quarters calling people. Well, back in the day, to get out of class early, you had to have a pass. And these passes, they never changed the color of them. They're always the same color. Well, Craig could get them. There was this one teacher that had a signature stamp. Craig would get a whole pad of these passes, and he'd have them stamped too. And he'd give me some of them, so I'd have some, and he'd keep some of them. But we kind of came to the conclusion that we didn't need to advertise this fact, so we only used them for ourselves. So we'd get out early and head to a payphone, and especially if somebody pissed one of us off, they were going to get a call. And one thing, I learned how to type. I was an extremely good typist, and my sister had an electric typewriter. Well, Craig happened to be in the principal's office for who knows what. Craig never got in a lot of. He would fight. Now, he was a little guy. A lot of guys thought, he wouldn't stand up for himself, and he'd go at them. And he was probably in the office for a fight. I'm about 90% sure. Well, back then, you didn't have all these printers just to print out, letterhead with. You had your letterhead already printed, and then you typed on it what you wanted. And then, like on the envelope, you just type in the upper left corner the return address. So, what would we do? We spent a bunch of money on envelopes and stamps. So, Craig's mama, she worked second shift a lot, so I'd go over there with the typewriter. We'd look in the phone book, figured out who had pissed us off last, and we'd get some kind of letter from the school and send that to their parent. It'd be absurd, the stuff we sent out. And we kind of would hope, we could figure out, we'd give them a time frame to come there, and it'd be in the morning time when school was letting in, and we'd be out front sitting. Well, we had a plan. You would not look at the individuals, but I guess that's where I got good peripheral vision from, was all those days. We'd see people walking in, and the parents look, man. And on the signature section, we just kind of scribble something. We wouldn't like type the name, and we'd have them tell them to come to the front office with their child, and so we could address the situation. And they sounded really, really convincing. And gosh, I'd love to know how many of those we sent out, because we finally ran out of stationery. We used every bit we had, and Craig was never able to obtain any more. But anyway, that's the last memory I could share on my buddy. And we had a lot of laughs with that. And looking back on them over the years, we just start talking about it, and we start giggling because we knew, what we were thinking about. Thanks for stopping by. Come back again when you will. Share, comment, like, hit that subscribe button. God bless.